Hey there, folks. I just want to talk to you a little bit about the last section in chapter 5. Super quick, super easy. Um, they are talking about polynomial inequalities and rational inequalities. And I want to touch on this because we use what we call interval work. And I've worked with you a little bit about this, but it is essential in calculus that you know how to do this operation. So solve a polynomial inequality. They're going to give you some polynomial. It might be in factored form, it might be in just standard form. It doesn't really matter. You're going to put it in your calculator. Let's get real here. Just go ahead, type it in your calculator in y sub 2, keep 0 in there, and go ahead and intersect and find your x-intercepts, okay? So that's the most important thing. Find the x-intercepts. In this example, my x-intercepts are at -3 and +1. So I'm going to set up a set of intervals, and I'm always going to start with -infinity. So I'm going to run from -infinity down here until I hit my first x-intercept. Then I'm going to go from that first x-intercept on to the next x-intercept, from -3 to 1. And then from 1 on to infinity. Now, in calculus, they may talk to you about, this notation, saying the function is less than 0. What that really means is the function is negative. It's below the x-axis, right over here. Between -infinity and 3, the function is below the x-axis. Between -3 and 1, you can see it's above the x-axis. F of x is greater than 0 or positive. Then between 1 and infinity, if you're just looking at that window right there, you are going to have the function above the x-axis also. So I've got 3 intervals here, below, above, and above. Now I'm going to look up here. This means I want the intervals that are above the x-axis. So I'm going to choose -3 to 1 as well as 1 to infinity. I'm not going to include the -3 or the 1. They didn't ask me for on the x-axis. They asked me for above the x-axis. So let's look at a rational inequality. Again, find those x-intercepts. So on this one, I decided to factor since it was super easy. I also put this in my calculator and I got this little graph right here. Found that I had an x-intercept at 1. I also had vertical asymptotes, I knew that. But anyway, with a rational inequality, you are going to set up your intervals using the x-intercepts and the vertical asymptotes. So I've got all of that information, and I'm going to start at -infinity, and I'm going to stop at -2 because that's the smallest important number. Then from -2 to 1, from 1 to 2, and then from 2 on to infinity. Notice I'm starting with -infinity and I'm ending with positive infinity. And then I have the asymptotic numbers, the asymptote numbers, and the x-intercept numbers all in there. And I just use parentheses in my interval work. My answer, I'm going to have some different stuff going on. So right here, this is asking for where is the graph below or on. Notice now I have the equal sign in there, so now I have to include the x-intercept, okay? Because an x-intercept is on the x-axis. Do not include your asymptotes, all right? Do not include your asymptotes. So my answer for this, where is this function below? It's going to be the -infinity to -2 interval, as well as the 1 to 2 interval. And I went back and put a bracket around the 1 because that is showing that I actually want to include that x-intercept. But parentheses around my asymptote numbers. You always have parentheses around your asymptote numbers and the infinity and negative infinity. Okay, just remember, when they give you a function less than 0, they're asking for below the x-axis, all parentheses. When they ask for the function less than or equal to, they want the x-intercept that is on the x-axis as well as the interval below. Greater than 0 is above, greater than equal to 0 is on the x-axis or above the x-axis. And that's really all there is to it. So good luck with this. And I think that you will do very, very well. Chapter 5 is not too bad, but if you have questions, as always, just call me.